Sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is underword sexual act to perform sexual act. Verbal or physical action or gesture that are sexual in nature, or behavior of a sexual nature which makes someone feel offended, insult, and or intimidated. Many cases of sexual harassment are experienced by women in the form of sexual touch. Sexual touch is physical contact that aims to flirt. Some people think that sexual harassment is caused by women only. In fact, sexual harassment can and often occur to children, the elderly, and even men.
A case of abuse in children. Crimes against children were committed by older offenders with a variety of modes. Some use methods of persuading the victim by giving some money, buying something the victim wants, or deliberately being invited by the perpetrator to play together and then the perpetrator committing violence against them. With this modes, the perpetrator then commits the crime in a place that feels safe. Many of the victims of violence have known the perpetrator, including friends of the victims, boyfriends, neighbors, and even some of the perpetrators are close relatives of the victim, father, son-in-law, cousin, who should be responsible for the victim's life and future.
Cases of abuse against women. Women naturally feel afraid after becoming victim of sexual harassment. So, if it hurts feeling or hurt physically, don't hesitate to seek help and support. Cases of harassment do not look at the clothes. For example, in verbal abuse. One of the factors that can trigger sexual harassment is that men see too often pornographic content. There are still many people who think that sexual harassment or violence is just a physically act to the intimate part.
Cases of abuse on men has happened in early 2020 when Reinhard Sinaga became the worst spotlight after being convicted for life by the British government on charges of rape of more than 200 men in the UK. It is a concern that sexual violence does not consider gender. Sexual violence includes acts of a sexual nature against other people without consent, both physical and verbal, including rape and sexual harassment. Most men who become victims of sexual harassment seem reluctant to report. They worry that they will be considered homosexual. Usually, male harassment is a threat.
Case of abuse in the elderly. The under education is the worker. He is physically ability to take care of the oneself is also diminishing. As a result, most elderly people cannot defend themselves or provide counter resistance when experiencing violence. This is what causes elderly to be as the main object of violence. In addition, the ability to share one also tends to this test. So this is hesitant or other to take advantage of the time in negative ways. Such is the case of many Scotland sentenced to 8 years in prison after raping 18 years old woman in the victim's house.
Alas, sexual harassment can happen anywhere and anytime, and the perpetrator of the crime can be anyone. So, we should fortify ourselves or prevent in a way. Always be careful everywhere. Have a basis in martial arts. Be brave. Wear appropriate clothes and much more.